I give up. Almost. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about some varieties that I have tried and tried to grow. But try as I might, I cannot succeed with them. But that does not mean that I've failed. It doesn't mean that I'm going to give up. It just means that I might need a little help. And so in today's episode, we're going to be going through some of those varieties because I know a lot of you probably are struggling with the same varieties that I'm struggling with. And one thing that I really want to do is take this opportunity to humble myself down, really show you guys that, yeah, I have some struggles myself. When it pertains to certain varieties, I might need some help. And you guys, there's a lot of you out there, a lot of you know how to grow some of these varieties or have grown them successfully. I'd love some pointers, I'd love some tips, because this year, I'm going to dedicate about 10% of my garden, 10%, to varieties that I have a hard time growing. And that means, yes, I am opening myself up to potential failure. I'm definitely opening myself up to being vulnerable, but that's okay sometimes. That's how we grow as gardeners, and I really want to learn. I really want to master these so that I can show you that just because something was hard doesn't mean it's impossible. Let's go. All right, so the first one, if you've been watching this channel for any length of time, you know that this one is no new news. Cauliflower. Cauliflower is such a tricky one for me. Now, growing it's not the tricky part. It's getting a beautiful white cauliflower head that is tricky. Now, I know that it requires you to blanch the tops, but when you do that, how soon you do that, it always just, for me, I always end up with these really yellow, dingy looking cauliflower heads that look more like a deer was walking through the forest and peed in snow than a beautiful, delicious cauliflower head. So I definitely struggle with that. I also really struggle with getting a nice sized head. Now compare that to broccoli. I can grow broccoli with my eyes closed, no problem. I do it all the time. I don't have any problems with broccoli. Cauliflower, different animal. So cauliflower is one that I have grown. I would say I typically grow cauliflower. About 80% of my gardens have had cauliflower in them, and 100% of the time, they have not turned out like cauliflowers. So some help on this would be appreciated. If you've grown cauliflower successfully, please let me know. When you plant, when you transplant. I know that they are a cool weather vegetable. I know you don't want to plant them too soon, but how do you balance that? Because it seems like when it gets warm for me, it seems like they just turn all nasty. So I don't know. This is a tough one, but I am up for the challenge. We're going to be growing it this year, and this is the year. We're going to get some successful cauliflower this year. Here's the second one for you. This one is a tricky one. Now, I have grown a successful watermelon. I grow successful small watermelons all the time. Big watermelons, only one time. In the entire 20 years I've been gardening, I've gotten a watermelon over 20 pounds. This year, I would love to grow many 20-plus pound watermelon because growing a big watermelon is just kind of it's a fun thing. Not only is it incredibly delicious, all watermelon homegrown tastes a million times better than store-bought, but the reaction that I got, taking it to a family reunion, we got together for a family reunion, brought this giant watermelon in, and I said I grew that. Conversation starter of all conversation starters. It was great. It was so much fun to bring that giant watermelon in there. But since then, I have never grown one successfully. I only get about this big, maybe this big. So, I really don't know if it's temperature related. I don't know if it's the fact that I need to start them a little bit sooner. I just want to hear what you guys do. I know that growing big watermelons is possible. I know many people grow them on a pretty regular basis. But for me, it just seems like everything can be going right, but the season is against me. But I know that's not the case, unless maybe it is the case. Maybe you guys are growing them in a hothouse. If that is the truth, let me know that. I want to know what you guys do to get successful large-sized watermelons. Obviously, if you're in zone 6, kind of like Michigan, Ohio, Indiana region there, that also is more helpful because down in like Alabama doesn't really do a whole lot. Louisiana might be like the watermelon capital of the world, but doesn't really do it. It's a dramatically different climate, right? So longer climate, more humid, more hot. That absolutely plays a big role, but I do know that growing big watermelons are possible. So big watermelons, not all watermelons, but specifically big watermelons is a challenge. Haven't given up on it because I have gotten one successful, but they're tough. They're super tough, but rewarding. Maybe this next one will come as a surprise to you, but big pumpkins. Big pumpkins are really tough to grow. Now, I have absolutely no problem growing pumpkins, much like I have no problem growing watermelon, but big pumpkins, I want to grow one of those 150, 200 pound, 300 pound pumpkins. It's just, there's a huge learning curve on how to grow big pumpkins. And I have just scratched the surface on how to grow big pumpkins. The largest pumpkin I've ever grown was only about 50 pounds. So there's a huge, huge room for improvement there, right? So if the largest was 50, but it has a potential to get 300, I've got 250 pounds of improvement. So my goal this year is to grow a pumpkin that is just bigger than 50 pounds. If it's 51 pounds, success. But I would love to aim for maybe 100 pounds. That'd be really fun. But let me know what you guys do to get successful large pumpkins. We actually, the farmers that we get these seeds from, they've got fields of them. And they'll tell you, just give them water, give them fertilizer, easy peasy. Well, it seems like it might be that simple based on what they tell me, but I know there's some secrets. They just don't really want to tell you because obviously if everyone knows their secrets, then everyone would be doing it and maybe they feel like they'd be out of business. But contrary to popular belief, giving out gardening tips is not like giving out fishing holes. There are only so many fish in that fishing hole. You can have a million gardens and it doesn't really affect you at all. So please share your tips with me. I would really appreciate it. I'd love to grow some big pumpkins. It'd be fun for not only me, but also the kids. Cut flowers. Now, cut flowers are something that I really have struggled with. Now, growing the flowers is not a problem, but getting them to last once you take them indoors. I love to cut some nice flowers for Mrs. MIgardener or bring them in the office and beautify the office. The problem is the moment I do that, they basically die within a day. And obviously I know that people have made their entire profession around growing cut flowers, and I don't know what you guys are doing. It's just a struggling point for me, and I would love it. Now, obviously, like I said, I have no problem growing these. I could grow fields of them with my eyes closed. These are actually really easy to grow, especially things like sunflowers. The problem is the moment I harvest them, it seems like they're already dying. And obviously I know that to be true because once you cut anything, they start to die. But like they just wither and drop their petals so unbelievably fast that if I get them from like the grocery store or like the farmer's market, it seems like I'll have beautiful flowers on the table for a week and a half. Whereas the ones I bring in, I feel like a little kid that brings in a dandelion to their mom and it's in the vase for like one day and then the next day it's just over like that. Like that's all my flowers have ever done. So it'd be really cool if you guys could share some tips. I would really appreciate it. Don't worry, I'm not gonna start a big cut flower farm and take you guys out of business. That's not what I'm here for. I just wanna be able to grow some nice cut flowers for our office and for my wife that I have always struggled. I just don't understand what you guys do. Or if there's something that you guys can do, maybe, I don't know, add to the water or cut them sooner, wait for a certain phase. I don't know. I just can't. It's over my head. So your help would be greatly appreciated because I haven't given up on it, but sometimes I just tend to leave them in the garden because I'm like, honey, your bouquet is in the garden. Just look at it there. Observe the beauty. Don't bring it inside because otherwise it's not gonna last very long. So maybe you guys could help with that. And the final one that I have to be honest, I really have never grown successfully. And to be honest, I kind of did give up on for a little bit was Hikma. Now, I've heard that Hikma is incredibly easy to grow, and maybe it's just that I'm doing something wrong, but there's really very little information on how to grow it successfully out there. If you've grown Hikma, please give me some advice. I would love to grow it. It's something that I have always wanted to grow because it's a wonderful potato substitute. It's a cultural food that's very important for South Americans and for Central Americans because it's basically, that's their starch of choice. Rather than potatoes, it's Hikma. And I would love to grow some Hikma for our family and just also for my confidence. It always has gotten about this big and never produces anything. Even though the Hikma roots are like this big, I only ever pull it up and just get roots. So please tell me what I'm doing wrong. I would actually absolutely appreciate that because this is one that has really stumped me for years. I've tried it in containers, started it sooner. I have started it directly in the ground and started out as like a little seedling. I've direct sown it. I just don't know what I'm doing wrong with this one. And so some advice would be so appreciated. Now I know what you're thinking. Luke, how could you possibly be selling seeds for varieties that don't produce well for you? What I would say to that is that it's not the seed, it's the gardener, right? It's like that movie quote, like, it's not you, it's me. Like, we're not breaking up because it's bad seed. It's just the gardener in me just doesn't know how to grow this. And so there's lots of people, hundreds if not thousands of you have grown successful Hikma, just not this one. So your tips would be so appreciated. I'd love to grow it. And I'm determined. I think this year could be the year we at least get something. Maybe not, look, hey, I have, my bar is basically at ground level. So even if there's, even if there's something that I can put in my mouth, or even if there's any tuber at all, even if it's not even edible, then that's fine. Like, that's a success. They don't need to be this big. They don't need to be normal size jicama, just half a ma. Half a ma rather than the whole jicama is great. So anyways, those are the varieties that I have not given up on yet, but have considered because they're so tricky. So if you guys have some tips, please let me know in the comments box down below. I know it's a shorter length video, but I think it's also really important to show you guys that I do have my own struggles, and I am still learning as a gardener even as of today. So if you're not learning, you are, what are you doing? What's the point of having a garden if you're not learning? Every single day should be something that you challenge yourself with, because that's part of the fun. So as always, thank you guys so much for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know in the comments box down below any tips you got, and we'll catch you all on the next episode. As always, grow bigger. Bye.